AMG fans are about to be pissed off. This is the new 2024 Mercedes-AMG C63 E-Performance 4MATIC. It is an extremely long name, and it is a really complicated car because the C63 no longer has a V8 engine under the hood. Nope, to save the whales and keep the air we breathe clean, Mercedes has ditched the glorious 8-cylinder and replaced it with a 4-cylinder hybrid. I can already hear the angry comments pouring through the internet straight into my consciousness right now. But in this video, we are going to drive the all-new C63 and find out whether or not those angry comments are actually justified. I'm going to do a quick walk around of the new C63. There is a little bit of interesting stuff to talk about here. We've got this gorgeous starling blue. Here on the drive, they had a couple of black, white, and silver, you know, the German rainbow stuff, but I think this blue is going to be the best color that you can get the C63 in. You're going to have the Panamericana grille that has become ubiquitous on all of the AMG models. Something interesting that you'll see on the C63 is this Affalterbach badge, the AMG crest instead of the 3-pointed star up there on the actual car itself. That is the first time Mercedes has done that on an AMG product. The C63 also has this nice air vent with this nice power bulge hood. I think that is really good looking as well. It's a little bit subtle, but you will notice that this car is about 3 inches wider than the standard C300, giving it just that really nice mean stance. 19-inch wheels are standard on the C63, but you can also get one of 4 different 20-inch wheel patterns, including 2 forged wheel patterns. We do have this little vented area here saying Turbo E Performance, letting us know that we do indeed have a hybrid here on the C63. Unlike the previous generation, this is only going to be a sedan. We don't yet know if the CLE 2-door coupe is also going to be spawning a C63 E-Performance version. So for now, only a sedan version of this car. We do have a nice spoiler here at the back. We have our AMG logo. They have changed the C63 logo so that it is now red, no matter what exterior color you get. On the blue, it is a little clashy for me. And we do have the quad exhaust tips, although if you do look behind them, you'll see that there is a little bit of a gap between the actual exhaust tips, but they do look pretty nice on the back of this car. And now let's go ahead and check out the inside of the new 63. And to help me do that, we've got Sophion Bay from Redline Reviews. Be sure to check out his channel as well. Sophion obviously does excellent reviews. So Sophion, tell me what you think about the C63's interior here.
Yeah, I mean, the inside pretty much looks like the standard C-Class, but there are a couple of differences here. The first one I think you're going to notice is the steering wheel. Look how thick and meaty that thing is with all the additional controls.
Nice perforation as well.
Yeah, I think it actually looks definitely befitting of like a race car. These seats also are a little bit more unique, but you can get a more aggressive race seat, which I think I might do.
Yeah, I'd be willing to try those out. These are definitely nicer than a base C300. They are heated and ventilated as well. And I believe you can still get heated and ventilation on the race seats as well.
I think you can too. And that's one of the unique things about Mercedes.
That's something you cannot do on the BMW M3. And you do not get the dumb carbon fiber bulge right here that you get on the M3 and the M4. So I do like that as well. Let's go ahead and start her up. No noise because, of course, we have a plug-in hybrid.
That's probably the weirdest part is because I had to do a double take to make sure it was on, but it basically just says ready in the instrument panel.
Yeah, a little bit weird. So we do have the same infotainment screen that you're going to get on the C300. It's a 12.3-inch screen, something along those.
11.9, you were close. Let me get some air on.
11.9, yes. We have to figure this out because there are no buttons in this car. There is like a volume little scrolly thing here to turn that off. And then there's not much else besides that. It's all on this giant touchscreen.
Yeah, so this runs the latest MBUX 3rd generation, although it doesn't have the new software from the E-Class.
Meaning that when you click on this, it's the old menu icons.
Right, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, it's still relatively easy to use. It includes wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, and I do like the graphics. I think the screen is also a nice size. It's not that overwhelming screen that we see like in the new E-Class, for example, or the EQS for the EVs.
I do also like, we do have the light up vents here. You don't get those on like a lot of other, like the GLC I drove didn't have those, which I was a little disappointed by. This looks okay to me, but Sophion pointed out that everything in here just like kind of creaks.
Yeah, it's a little creaky, which is kind of unacceptable for a car that has this price tag. I mean, don't get me wrong, the interior looks nice, and for the most part, the fit and finish seems fine. It's just when you start poking around a little bit closer, you notice that some of the fitment of the panels could be better.
And it definitely isn't like that in the M3. So I will say the BMW is better with that. Sofyan did mention the steering wheel down here, and I should mention it before we get out on the road because we are going to be playing with it a little bit. We have the AMG drive mode controllers here. I've loved these ever since Mercedes started doing these. You can put it in electric mode. You've got sport, sport plus, you even have a race mode. You can configure all of it here. And then you have like your individual settings. So you have your traction control, you have your AMG dynamics, you actually have like a sound thing, and then you can change those. So if you want sport everything with comfort suspension, as we figured out, that is probably the best way to do it. You also have a digital gauge cluster. You can get a head-up display that actually looks pretty nice as well, although my polarized sunglasses do tend to knock it out just a little bit. And you can change the digital gauges on here as well. So pretty nice cabin, I would say overall. Like, trades a couple punches with the M3 because you can get ventilated sport seats, but I think the materials are a little bit, the fit and finish is a little bit better in the M3.
Yeah, I would say so. And then also keep in mind the M3 also has a bigger screen technically. It's like a 14.5 inch. So if you want, you know, the bragging rights for the biggest screen, you could look at the BMW, but I also appreciate the way this looks. It certainly looks expensive.
Yeah, you have the portrait style rather than that style as well. And the one thing was interesting, this is actually a little bit longer, they say. It's about a ½ inch in the wheelbase longer than the regular C-Class, which is a little bit interesting. So if we hop back here to the back seat, you'll see Sofyan and I are not the tallest journalists in the world, but
I'm 5'7", but this is like a good amount of space for somebody of average height.
I can sit behind myself just fine. We do have USBs down here. We have air vents as well, our own sunroof as well. So could use this as a daily driver, as a commuter, as a family hauler.
Yeah, you could. I mean, I guess you'd probably struggle to put a car seat back here, but hey, at least it has a usable back seat.
Yeah. And I think that pretty much sums up the interior. All right, so let's get behind the wheel of the new 4-cylinder C63. That's right, 4 cylinders. This may only have 4 cylinders and 1 turbo, which is half as many cylinders and half as many turbos as the outgoing C63. But after you hear the numbers, you might not care as much because this is the most powerful 4-cylinder engine in production right now. On its own, makes 469 horsepower and a whopping 402 pound-feet of torque. That's actually more than the base version of the old 4-liter twin-turbo V8, but that is not all you have. You also have a 6.1 kilowatt-hour battery at the back, 4.8 kilowatt of which is usable. That is a 400-volt architecture, and it does have an electric motor on the rear axle that can produce up to 201 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque with a 2-speed transmission. Now, it's only going to produce about 94 horsepower continuously, but for short bursts, it's going to give you up to 201 horsepower. And yes, you actually can drive it on all electric power, which is what I'm doing now. Now, we only have about 201 horsepower in this mode, so it gives you some brisk acceleration, but if you ask too much of it in the electric mode, it is going to go ahead and kick the engine on for you. The EPA only rates this car at about 3 miles of electric range. You can plug it in and charge it home on an AC outlet, but I don't think too many people are really buying it for that purpose. Maybe you can get out of your neighborhood quietly, but as we'll talk about a little bit later, this isn't the loudest car in the world anyway. The hybrid mode might be nice if you're just sitting in traffic and you just want to be quiet and relaxing, but it's not really what I would call a true plug-in hybrid. Mercedes says that you'll get a little bit more than the 3 EPA miles out of it. You might get 6 or 7 miles, but like I said, it's not really made for that. The real reason you buy a C63 is for the combined power. I already mentioned that this 4-cylinder engine is the most powerful one on sale, and when you combine it with that electric motor, it is a monster. We are talking 671 horsepower and a whopping 752 pound-feet of torque. Just to put that into perspective, the old C63S only produced 503 horsepower from its twin-turbo V8. So when I tell you that this new C63 is quicker than the old V8 model, whoa, oh my gosh. It really is quicker. Now, part of the reason why this new C63 is quicker than the old one isn't just because this produces 170 more horsepower. It's also because we now have standard 4MATIC all-wheel drive that is going to work regardless of the drive mode, whether you're using the engine, whether you're in electric mode, you can always have all-wheel drive, and the grip is absolutely phenomenal. Ooh. And then because you also have an electrically gas-driven turbocharger. That's technically one of the 3 motors that you have on this car. You have one on the transmission, you have one on the rear axle, and then you have one spinning the turbo faster. There is just no turbo lag. It almost feels like I'm in a Fast and Furious movie when you push the boost button for the NOS and you just get that NOS kick. That's what it feels like. It almost feels like I'm driving an EV, but then there's also a gas engine. Oh my God. And it doesn't do that thing that some 2-liter turbo 4-cylinders do, and they just kind of die off at the top of the rev range. Because you have the electric power still coming in, this just pulls and pulls and pulls until you're ready to shift. And then even when it does shift, there's no interruption of the power because you have the electric motors. It's truly a new experience. So now I've turned around, we're going uphill so I can explore this powertrain just a little bit more. I will say the steering is a little bit on the electronic-y side, a little video gamey to me. The suspension is on the firm side. You should expect that from a C63. This has never been like a comfortable cruising car. It has always been tuned quite tautly. Now, I can come over here into the drive settings and I can keep it in the race setting, so I have the race engine, but now I have the comfort suspension. This is the best way to enjoy this car. And again, oh my gosh, it just pulls. We got a little unstable there. We had a nice little hump. But again, this car doesn't lose composure. It went over the bump just fine. I barely had to give it even any steering input. It didn't seem to upset the car too much. So this is a car that you could drive pretty long distance in. The fuel economy, Mercedes told me with the electric motor, when you charge up the battery, you should be getting about 40 miles per gallon. But again, like I said, that battery is not going to last you long. If you're beating up on this car, like normally you should be getting like 21 mpg. That's significantly better than the old V8. It's still not like amazing considering that they dropped 2 cylinders on this car, but it's definitely not the worst fuel economy that you can get in a 670 horsepower car. I should also mention that we do have rear axle steering here. Mercedes has never been my favorite in terms of rear axle steering because you can kind of feel what the rear end is doing. The best rear axle steering systems are the ones that feel invisible, that you don't really notice. And I gotta say, I'm not pushing this car at its full limits. I am not a professional driver, but I feel like I just can tell that it's doing some rear axle steering for me, and it just doesn't give me that confidence to push the car as much as I probably would. Maybe if I got to drive the car for a little bit longer than a day, I would be a little more confident in it. But on first impression, I am noticing the rear wheel steering here. Now, there is a drift mode. Mercedes advised me not to try it on these Malibu Canyon roads. Definitely don't want to wreck their $90,000 C63, but it can feed tons of power to the rear wheel, helping you slide this car out. So even though it does have all-wheel drive, this thing probably will rip some pretty awesome drifts. And the adaptive suspension, once I put it into the comfort setting, like I said, really not that bad. This is how I would set it up. Race mode on everything, comfort on the suspension. Now, when I drove the C43, the version below this car but above the C300, I kind of lambasted Mercedes because they had dropped from the turbocharged V6 to a 4-cylinder, and they said it was more efficient, they said it was more powerful, but it really wasn't any quicker. Now, in this case, this car is actually a lot quicker than the old V8 because it has all-wheel drive, because it has the electric boost. Mercedes says that this can hit 0 to 60 in just 3.3 seconds, and I'm already in race mode, so why don't we just come to a stop and try that for ourselves. Floor it, you have to let it build up the revs. Whoa, my God. Oh, it shifts so hard. Oh. Now that was 0 to 60 quicker than Mercedes says. That was 0 to 60 in 3 seconds flat. That's about the same time that you should expect to get from a BMW M3 or M4 with the xDrive. So that's like almost a full second quicker. And when I tell you that was like an EV level savage launch, that was pretty savage. Honestly, I can't wait to do that again. So that is pretty impressive to me that they were able to make this car quicker with half the cylinders and half the turbochargers. And even though this thing is heavy, and it is very heavy, we are talking a 4,800 pound plus curb weight. That is 842 pounds more than the old C63. Remember, it has all-wheel drive, even though it has fewer cylinders, and it's about 827 pounds more than the M3 with xDrive. So this is a very, very heavy car. I mean, but that launch control definitely doesn't make it feel heavy. I gotta try that again one more time, because it does the thing where it pinches the seatbelt, it makes some fake noises. Oh, whoa. Oh, you get like a little electric whine. You feel it in the chest. You feel it. You didn't get that. Listen, you definitely got a better noise in the old C63, but you didn't get that. That is S63 level of acceleration now in a C63. So listen, if you're in it only for the exhaust sound, go buy a used C63 with the V8. I think you're gonna have a really good time with that rear wheel drive. But if you're you like cool technology, you want the thing that's just gonna absolutely pin you to your seat, and you don't want a Tesla Model 3 performance, oh, this thing is an absolute beast. Would I buy it over an M3 xDrive? That's a tough question. I just feel like the M3 is a little bit more of a pure driver's car, but in terms of cool factor, I don't know. This C63 would definitely make me think about it. So that was the all-new 2024 Mercedes C63. Don't even make me say the whole name again. It is just too long. Let me just tell you the pricing for this car. It starts at just under $84,000. Now, you haven't been able to buy a four-door C63 for a few years now. I think 2021 was the last model year that Mercedes offered one of these in the US with the V8 engine. That car was priced at $76,200. So it's obviously more expensive, but it's not that big of a jump considering that everything has gotten so much more expensive in the last 3 years. So honestly, I don't think this is too bad. And the BMW M3 xDrive starts at just over 85 grand. So this is actually a little bit cheaper than that, and you are getting a much more sophisticated drivetrain on this car. Now, you can step up to the Pinnacle trim level for just under $86,000, adds things like augmented reality navigation, you get the head-up display and the digital lighting on the inside. Do you have to get that? Nah, not really. You can also add a lot of stuff a la carte. But this is an expensive car. Would I buy it over an M3? Like I said while I was driving it, I think it would be a tempting proposition if you just like how Mercedes are a little bit more than BMW. I think this is a little bit more elegant looking than the M3. It is a little bit more of a sleeper. And would I buy it over the Tesla Model 3 Performance? That's completely different. That is factoring in that you're ready to go EV. Obviously, this, you just plop some gasoline in it and you're ready to go. You still get that buzz. You still get that fizz. You don't get that rumble of the V8, and I will miss the V8. But this is kind of just a different experience. It's not the V8 rear-wheel drive tire shredder. It's more of a technological, focused wizardry type of experience. Honestly, if you liked cars like the Subaru WRX STI and Mitsubishi Evo, but wanted them to be more sophisticated, more mature, that's kind of what this is. And honestly, that doesn't sound like such a bad thing. Let me know what you think of the new C63 down below in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I'll see you next time.